Hello, Merry Meet. So, I want to review a book. And the book I want to review is Runes for Beginner, Simple Divination and Inspiration. Simple Divination and Interpretation. Yay! Dyslexia. By Alexandra Chauran. It's published by Lavelle. So, I think that before I even get into this book, I should address the whole thing about rune magic and Norse magic. It is one of these things, just like with voodoo or Celtic magic, and a lot of these things that it's become popular. It's become a popular concept, and then it sort of goes a very long way from the originals. And in and of itself, I don't have a problem with that. It's like a lot of people are very angry at this guy, Connolly, isn't that his name? It's this guy that writes occult books that has written a lot about both Celtic magic and Norse magic, and it's utter bullshit, really. It's just his invented system with a bit of a Nordic flair to it. But I don't have a problem with that in and of itself. I mean, use whatever works. What I have a problem with is when this is not marked, when it's sort of presented as the original. And this one here is definitely of the basically newly invented category, but the book doesn't hide that. This is written by a Wiccan high priestess. She lists, among other things, Connolly as in her recommended reading list, and she doesn't hide that she's working with a new system. So, just to mention that. So, this is definitely not authentic Norse magic, but it's pretty good. And since it isn't hidden, that it isn't basically the authentic part of it, that it's inspired by this, I think it's completely okay. So, let's have a look at the index. There is the lovely lady that has written the book. We have an introduction, which we often do. We have step 1, getting started with the runes. Step 2, divination and runes. Cast, charge and spreads. 3, love, money and career and school readings. 4, tapping into the power of the runes. 5, specific application of runes. 6, making runes your personalized divination system. Then a conclusion, a glossary, a recommended reading list, and a bibliography. Okay. So, for the most part, I really enjoy this book. It is well written, so it's fun to read. It has a lot of good information. It's a good tool to, if you buy a rune set or make one, to read this book. It will get you started with things. It also goes into things like bind runes, how to use them for both magic and for divination. Basically, you can create your own bind runes to have specific meanings that you can then add to a spread, for example. And all of this is pretty good. My only problem really with the book is when it comes to some of the bind runes. The bind runes in themselves is fine, but some of these rune patterns, let me see if I can't find an explanation of an example of them. Here are we. I know they're in here. Yeah. That's fine, that was fine. For example, here we have rune circles. I think that the idea behind rune circles is pretty damn good. But it isn't really explained a lot about how you make them, at least not to a degree that I think I can use that information and just use runes and make one myself. So the explanation of how to make these designs are somewhat limited. Other than that, the book gives quite a bit of information, but not so much that you become completely overwhelmed. I like that it has ideas for how to memorize the runes. It explains how to use runes with various forms of layouts, but both basically layouts and spreads. It goes into basically the predecessor of rune divination, divining with bones, and basically various forms of casting lots. So it goes into these ideas. I do like that it doesn't try to add a lot about Norse religion and magic, because it even has that point in it that we don't really know a lot about how the runes were used. It doesn't add the fact that we don't even know if they were actually used for divination or for magic at all. She does present it as, no, it was holy object that was found with runic inscriptions. Yeah, they were, but so was a lot of other things. Basically, runes were a written language, is what was. So we have found a lot more, this is so-and-so's property markers or graffitis. Like Sigurd has a big cock engraved on some mountain wall. Then we have religious and magical uses of runes or examples of that. That doesn't mean they weren't used like that. But basically the system don't base themselves around these ideas, and I do like that. She has a ritual here for activating the runes, which I think is a pretty good ritual. I might use that. And also some fun ideas. For example, let's say you have some sort of, you want confidence, for example. You take a few runes that will fit with that, and you gently carve them into a banana. Not going completely through the peel, just most of it. And when you leave it, and then when you come the next morning, it will, what you have inscribed will have browned. So it just pops against the yellow color of the banana, and that will then infuse that banana with the energy of those runes. There's all little cute ideas like that, which I do really like. Also like that she discusses this mostly about the Elder Futhark, but she discusses other rune systems as well, including modern ones like witch runes, which I wouldn't really call runes. They're pictograms really, and not runes. And she also discusses how to make your own runes, basically both making bind runes, and a bind rune, for those that don't know, it's basically a combination of a rune. It's a little bit how you make a sigil with sigil magic. You write up your sentence, for example, I have a new car, and then you get rid of all repeating letters, and then you take the letters that are left and you sort of combine them into a symbol. You do the same with runes, with so-called bind runes. This has been a part of Norse magic for quite a few hundred years. It's an interesting concept. What is extra interesting, though, is that in her system here is sort of the opposite of sigil magic, because you make it in a lot of the same ways, but she wants it to be memorable, so you will be absolutely sure to remember that rune, so you can constantly go and think about it after you activated it, which is the exact opposite of what you would do with sigil magic. But I am digressing. Basically, she discusses bind runes, she discusses runes for magic, and yeah, I mean, I think it's a good book. It will give you the information you need to get a rune set and work with it. If you do have a section on making runes, I don't think that's the best one, because it doesn't go in a lot of details. Basically, all of the things where you are supposed to be creative with something, it doesn't go into enough detail. I know how to do this. I have made my own rune sets, but I think that for a beginner it could be hard to take what's in this book and put that into practice. But all of the parts that are straight information and things like little spells to do, and all of that actually works very well. And she also have a grimoire in here of bind runes that you can take straight out of the book and use for various things. So yeah, I think it's a very good book, and I'm quite happy with it. It's modern practice that could easily be added to Wicca or any other things. It's mostly about how to do divination, but it's also about magic, and I'm pleased with it. I haven't worked a lot with runes, and this made me want to delve more into that. So yeah, that's my review of Runes for Beginners, Simple Divination and Interpretation by Alexandra Chauran. I'll give this 9 out of 10. Hope you have enjoyed this review. Have a great day and blessed be. And if I don't see you again before Christmas, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. I hope you had a very nice jule last night for those of you who are in the northern hemisphere, and midsummer for those of you who are in the southern hemisphere. So yes, have a great day and blessed be.